So it's great to have you gentlemen here, JD, until I say Mr. Dillard, since you are the senior officer on this call.
Bruce is fine, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's a pleasure. I'm grateful that you want to take time here and do this video interview, just being up front here. So JD, can you share with us a little bit about how you got involved in devotion?
Yeah, so I mean, it was kind of a mix of a few things. I've sort of long idolized aviation, and there just kind of came a point a couple of years ago where I wanted to see if I could find some story to tell in and around aviation, and that could have been, starship fighters and a genre thing, or a true story set in the Korean War. And after I sort of told my agents and managers that was something I wanted them to keep an eye out on, I was sent the script for Devotion. And the thing that was sort of overwhelming while reading it was, on one end, I couldn't believe that I didn't know Jesse's story to this detail, and what went down between him and Tom Hudner. But also in the story, I saw a lot of my dad's story, and it's rare that sort of, art and your personal history collide so specifically. So I found myself with an opportunity here to, yes, of course, honor the story of Jesse and Tom, but in a way also sort of get to articulate parts of my dad's story.
Absolutely. No, it touches home for you on many levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that. For Jesse's story, what most resonated with you outside of aviation? What particularly drew you in and really ignited your passion to make the film and make it as great as it is?
Yeah, I mean, even that is sort of multifaceted. I think on one end, seeing what Jesse did when he did it, just speaks to such a type of character, and one that I have certainly looked up to, not just in my own dad, but even sort of applying it to what my own aspirations are, within film and television, when there are fewer people than you'd hope that look like you doing the thing that you want to do. And looking at Jesse's story and seeing that, against all odds, with no comparison, he was able to not just pursue but reach that goal. I kind of recognized and kind of related to that fire in your gut, and also, there's this sort of peculiar isolation that comes in that type of pursuit of a dream, and there are moments in Devotion that I really relate to, where the struggle is not just external, but it's internal, to sort of, fight to continue to give yourself the strength and pull it from those, that love you around you, to reach this place that you've been aspiring to, is something that I think, goes from Jesse to my dad, to me. And I just found that, incredibly impactful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It does come across on the screen, having seen the film many times now. What was your favorite part of the film, and in what ways did you integrate your family's naval integration into some of those scenes or scene?
Ooh, it's tricky with a movie that I really loved, to pick a favorite kid among the scenes. But I think I'll use two examples. One is a little clearer just by way of, look, loving planes and loving aviation, and having a relationship to service. I mean, getting to shoot aerial scenes was so fun and such a dream come true. And I think Jesse and Tom sort of splitting away from the rest of the squadron, in the middle of the Yalu River scene, just I don't know, it conjured like this camaraderie, this brotherhood, you know, a sort of blend of aesthetics that I was really interested in, while also kind of getting a little bit of that like Star Warsy, you know, in the trench run hotshotness, you know. So that was really just such a fun thing to put together.
Yes.
My nods to Star Wars are not subtle. And you know, I think on the other side, you know, a much quieter scene, you know, Jesse telling Daisy that they're shipping off, you know, I think really was one of those moments where, you know, fact, fiction, reality, my story, their story, you know, all sort of blended together, because it at both in script phase and in production, you know, it was the type of scene where, you know, you don't just look at what Jesse did, but I went to my own parents and asked, like, you know, what is that conversation like? You know, what's scary about it? You know, and how does that practically feel? You know, and that, I think a scene like that sort of holds the most in terms of, you know, where my own story, where our own story was inside of Jesse's story.
That's fantastic. It's great when there's a director who has such a personal touch and a personal experience that can bring to a film. You know, I mean, you like that every single time. Sometimes directors make great films and they don't have as personal a touch, but yours here, it definitely shined through to me. And thank you for sharing that. And having screened the film many times through Mr. Smith, who's been very kind to me. He did the interview with me for the Leatherneck that came out last June.
Yeah, right.
And he's been, you know, a great man towards me and kind. Having seen the film through him and witnessed it, you know, and seen the edits and how much better and how you guys brought those moments. I mean, the at the Fox premiere, the Fox Theater, I was in tears basically by the end of the film. And I'd seen how much that you had continued to refine it and make it into a diamond. And, you know, I just, you really did a great job coming from a veteran and from having, you know, been to a war and having had friends that aren't here. And, you know, friends that are in aviation as well. And some have been close mentors of mine. You know, you did justice to the story and also service, which is hard to do sometimes or many times. So
Really great to hear, Joel. And that, yeah, means a lot coming from you.
thank you. Did you have anything else you wanted to share, JD, before I shift over and talk with your father?
I mean, he has all the cooler things to say. So no, I just shot the movie, you know.
Well, I don't know about
you know,
that.
he actually did this stuff. So
Absolutely. Bruce, would you be able to share your story with the audience here?
Sure. So, like many naval aviators, I went to an air show when I was 13. The Blue Angels are flying in the F-4 Phantom.
Yep.
I saw a blue jet go over my head with 2 balls of fire coming out of the back. And I said, I want to do that when I grow up. My mom would rent a piece of farmland not too far from the Willow Grove Naval Air Station, which is where I saw the first air show.
Yeah.
So there was constantly a lot of aviation going on. So all the way through my teenage years, whether it was an air show or just airplanes coming in and out, you know, I quickly, you know, fantasized about doing that one day myself. So I joined the Navy. I was a naval flight officer, and for 12 years, I flew right seat in the A6 Intruder.
Wow.
Came back to be a flight instructor in the A6 Intruder, which gave me an opportunity to rush the Blue Angels, which I did. And I was very lucky, very fortunate to be selected my first time. For most folks, a lot of folks, it's their second time around.
Yeah.
So served on the team for 2 years as the events coordinator. So I got a lot of backseat time in the F-18 Hornet.
Awesome.
And then in the Navy, if you're not flying, you do a disassociated sea tour. So in the middle of Desert Storm in February of 1991, I shipped off to be the assistant navigator on John F. Kennedy.
Wow.
From there, when Saddam Hussein did not want to let inspectors, go back and look for nuclear weapons. A couple of years later, I was in St. Thomas. We had just dropped an anchor. 22 hours later, we pulled the anchor up and we were sailing across the Atlantic Ocean. I had nothing but t-shirts and shorts. Pretty devastating. So I stood next to the skipper and I said, "Hey, skipper, I'm supposed to be leaving. Well, I don't know what's going to happen now with cruise." And he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I'd like to work for a 4-star admiral, or I'd like to work for the Secretary of the Navy." So he was very kind and generous. Sent a few letters back to Navy personnel, and I had the privilege of working with Admiral Miller, 4-star, who reported to Colin Powell. And then I made the transition to the F-14 Tomcat, flying the back seat. After that tour, this guy here was about 4.5 years old, and I just decided, I had 8 years left. 6 years were going to be at sea, and I wanted to be around for the family, and that's when I made the decision to step away.
Yes. Yeah, being in a flying squadron, being in especially the Tomcat, you're gone a lot, getting those hours, getting that time, and then you go out on your pumps, and
Exactly. And what people don't realize, and this, when you go on cruise, you just don't go on cruise. There's like 9 months of workups that you're gone before you actually do the real cruise, and so you're not home a lot. And I had a wonderful career, very successful, very exciting.
Yes.
But it also included not being home, and I just felt like it was time to come home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sure JD appreciated that too, having you around.
I mean, I sort of like living in Virginia Beach, and then we suddenly had to move to Philadelphia. Which, I also love and go bird, but yeah, no, it was definitely sort of a foundational moment, I think, in the family when he was home for good.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, mom was upset because she never got her CO's parking lot or parking spot.
Or the sticker on the car. People salute the sticker.
That's right. Yeah. So she was upset too, but she got over it.
Yeah, you've got to make decisions better for the family than for the career many times, and you did. And now JD's, not only directing movies, he's directing ones about naval aviation. So, who if you had stayed in and moved around, probably would have still happened, but maybe not.
You never know.
So do you have any Super Bowl predictions for tomorrow? Or I should say, excuse me, Sunday.
Eagles by 3, say 28-31.
Okay. All right. Sounds pretty accurate. Sounds pretty good.
I will say. Well, it's a tie game. I mean, I think the spread, it was 1.5 to the Chiefs. Now it's 1.5 to the Eagles. It's a tie game. What it's going to really come down to is who has the ball last. Last, 30 to 60 seconds. Whoever has the ball last is going to win the game.
It's very true. 2 high-powered offenses with two great quarterbacks. So, nonetheless, we still have a little bit of time. Bruce, what does Jesse L. Brown's story mean to you, and did you know about it?
That's a great question. I was actually embarrassed by how much I did not know.
Oh, wow.
I knew that Jesse was the first Black naval aviator. I saw something at the Smithsonian, and it was just a piece in a corner of a wall, but I had no idea about what he went through. Certainly did not understand what happened with Tom Hudner. And so it was funny, as he was sort of interviewing for the job, there's a documentary on Amazon called Angle of Attack. And it's an interesting juxtaposition between the history of naval aviation, which I needed to learn more about myself, along with young officers who are learning how to carrier qualify today. And they had a very long piece on Jesse Brown. I took some video, sent it to him, and I said, "Oh my goodness, this is unbelievable." And then of course read the book, and it was like, yeah, I can't believe that I didn't know this.
Understood. Yeah, it's a powerful story, and the fact that it flew under the radar for so long. It's shocking, very much so. For the film, what has touched you the most about it, Bruce?
So we really got lucky.
I just keep asking these difficult questions here.
No, it's an easy question. It's a really long answer.
Okay.
Yeah, listen, a couple of things. You know, when your son has, or daughter, doesn't matter, but when your kid has, you know, an appointment to West Point to play lacrosse, on the waiting list for the Naval Academy prep school, and then he comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to make movies." You know, well, after your heart drops into your wallet, you know, you're gonna be like, oh my, you know, like, come on, man. Like, I mean, you know, being a Blue Angel is like really doggone hard, but this is like impossible. So, you know, we've been on this journey for a really, really long time. There's been pain, there's been heartache, there's been excitement, and I just wanted someone to give him an opportunity, which Mr. Smith and you know, Black Label Media certainly
Yes.
did. Just the opportunity, and I felt like, and again, I'm being very partial here, but I just felt like he had the maturity, and the insight and the work ethic to do something special. And so that's probably been the most rewarding thing for me. I can tell you, when we looked at the dailies, we were crying. There was no music, there was no background noise. It was just raw video, and it was just so powerful, because there were so many scenes, you know, that really told the inside story of what our own family went through. You know, Jesse sitting on the couch in his Ohio State University, you know, sweatshirt, you know, his head in the books with his wife's feet. I mean, I like, he took that from, like, how old were you when I was doing that? Like, he took that from home. I mean, I feel like, right. And of course the scene, at the kitchen table, you know, talking about going on cruise, and even the mirror scene, you know, while I never did that, you know, not, at least not in that particular manner. Oh my gosh, there are so many times where you're talking to yourself, because, you know, it's a lonely business. Now, certainly it was a lot better in the 80s and 90s than it was in the 50s, but
Yeah.
it's still a little bit of a lonely business. And you know, when something goes wrong, you question, you know, did I really do something wrong, or does this guy just not like the way I look, right? And so there were so many moments like that. One last little scene.
Yes.
When they're doing their fam hop in the very beginning, I don't know if you notice this or not, but as Jesse's flying around, there's a little smirk on his face. There's a little smirk, and because he loves to fly, he just loves to fly, and certainly I've had that feeling 1,000 times. Anyway, so there were just so many bits and pieces that were so very accurate, which is, you know, what I had hoped for, and again, he did a great job with it.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Bruce.
Sure.
Very, very touching, and it's a great answer. So is there anything else you gentlemen want to share before we depart?
I mean, look, I'll say it's you know, February is really fun for us because, you know, the story of Jesse and Tom sort of, you know, boiling back up, you know, at least into the conversation, you know, by way of Black History Month has been really exciting. You know, we're actually, you know, calling you from San Francisco as we're sharing it with the you know, Marine Corps Memorial, and you know, getting to talk about the process and, you know, who Jesse and Tom were, and get to do that. You know, and then it's also kind of at the same time, the film is becoming readily available for anyone who wants to watch it. So obviously, you know, we are on Paramount Plus right now, and you know, you can rent it and buy it digitally. But we're also a couple of weeks away from it being out on Blu Ray and 4K. You know, so it's for me, that is the final chapter in the process when you get the disc and you put it on your shelf. You're like, okay, I've shot the movie. The movie is done. I can't change anything. You know, the special features are here. It's hung up. So all of that sort of coinciding here in February is really I don't know. It's a really apt way to bring the process of devotion, you know, kind of to a close.
Absolutely. And a great way to close it out, and to be a part of history, and get to leave that legacy for generations well beyond us to watch and relive.
Right. And I would say one other thing, just because as I was saying, bring the story to a close.
Yes.
There is innately a part of this story that is not closed yet. Jesse's remains are still in North Korea. It's truly the only, and there is no happy ending to the story. But there still is a hope for closure. And we hope that now that the film is becoming more and more accessible, and more people can be introduced to Jesse and Tom's story, that we can also sort of point attention to the fact that Jesse should be in Arlington, like many other soldiers who we are also still trying to bring home. It has certainly been a big effort led by Jessica Knight Henry, Jesse's granddaughter, and Fred, and a wide network of extremely dedicated and talented and thoughtful people, and obviously picking up the charge that Tom Hunter himself was really pushing forward. So I would say the chapter of the movie is coming to a close,
Right.
but we hope it's just the beginning of the story of finally getting Jesse home.
Bringing Jesse back, absolutely, and that's a great point. And that he does need to be brought home and need to be released by the North Korean government. It's time. It's been time for a long time. So thank you again, and it's been a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing you gentlemen sometime in the future.
Yeah, Joel, thanks so much for this. Really great to chat.